It's also possible to have more than one large reserve currency, and there have been times when that was the case, and so it's not really clear.
As well as a central thread that runs through all three of your recent books is about the dominance of the dollar and its endless line of new or old challengers. Your consistent argument was that despite all of the challenges, the US dollar is going to remain the dominant one, although there are many other competitors chipping away on the edges. Again, recent developments, global inflationary pressure, crises from Silicon Valley Bank, from Credit Suisse, all of these currency swap programs between China and other major developing economies and trade partners, as well as supply chain and financial decoupling or de-risking, whatever you call it. How has that attributed to any new thought potentially on this argument of yours?
You brought pandas and elephants into the room and now the US eagle as well. It's hard to see a substantial change in the international monetary system, although I would preface my remarks by saying that it's far from obvious that the current financial system that we have is a good one, where one currency is so dominant and the effects of the central bank that issues that currency reverberate in every corner of the world. I don't think this is a very balanced situation in the international monetary system. Now, the reality is that as we move towards other forms of digital currencies, perhaps we will have more currency competition. But hewing to my earlier remarks, I want to make the case that even if there were to be a digital renminbi, well before there ever is a digital dollar, is it going to fundamentally alter the dynamics of international finance? If you think about international payments, practically all of them are digital already. So just the fact that you have a digital renminbi available isn't going to fundamentally alter that. China's cross-border interbank payment system, CIPS, on the other hand, could be a much more important game changer. It can directly communicate with the payment systems of other countries. It can even act as a messaging system that allows countries to get around the need to message through the SWIFT network. If there were mature payment systems in other countries that could directly communicate with CIPS, then you could see a lot more trade being conducted directly between emerging market currency pairs. Right now, it's very difficult to trade bilaterally between those currency pairs because it's costly. There isn't much liquidity in those markets. But if you get practically instantaneous settlement of those transactions, that becomes feasible. So one can see the dollar's role as a payment currency or as a vehicle currency between different currency pairs becoming somewhat less important over time. But at the same time, if you think about stable coins becoming more important, it's likely, and in fact, so far the evidence is pretty clear, that it is US dollar-backed stable coins that seem to be gaining the most traction. So somewhat paradoxically and indirectly, the dollar might become even more dominant in terms of international payments. As a reserve currency, as I argued, you need very deep and liquid financial markets. And while the US is issuing huge amounts of debt, with the gross federal debt to GDP well over 130% of GDP right now, which is a staggering number. That's a lot of depth and liquidity in that market, which seems to favor the US. And the US institutional framework really got chipped away, especially during the previous administration, and it continues to some extent at the moment. But if you take this combination of factors, the US still seems to be in a dominant position. I can well see the renminbi gaining a little more traction as a payment currency, perhaps even as a reserve currency, as reserve managers around the world look for diversification opportunities. But one curious phenomenon has started showing up in the international financial system in the last 7 or 8 years. Yes, the dollar share as a reserve currency has fallen by about a couple of percentage points, but the euro share has fallen even more. So somewhat interestingly, the distance between the dollar and the second most important reserve currency has in fact increased. And now I think we're going to get into a situation of fragmentation where there is a sort of, intense competition between the second tier currencies, in which I'm going to include for now the euro, the Japanese yen, the pound sterling, and the Chinese renminbi and other emerging market currencies. So I can see the dollar perhaps losing some of its dominance as a payment currency, as a reserve currency, but it will still remain by far the most important one. while you have a whole range of other currencies beginning to battle it out between each other and perhaps leave the dollar at some level even more dominant because it has no serious rival.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you join the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're in the Cash App. And we had Jerome Powell long time say that we can have 2 world reserve currencies. It's happened in history. And it's about to start again, just for a little while. China's digital yuan is ready to take over the show, and we're clearly seeing the United States dollar being destroyed, but at the same time being tokenized, so therefore it's not going to lose all its strength. It's going to lose that world reserve currency title, but still be strong. But if we look at China's Belt and Road, we can clearly see the digital yuan takeover. And when we look at gold prices, we know fiat is out. We're going to a cashless society. And there won't be any need for all these banks. The small and medium-sized banks are out. And we know that means that small business is out, and that's what runs America. Remember, the NWO causes a problem, wait for the reaction, and run in with the solution. I showed you the FDIC video. They planned it over 10 years ago. We only have a handful of banks left because they need plenty of liquidity. It's real-time settlement. The current system is fee-based. That is out the window. And as these small and medium-sized banks disappear, as the small businesses disappear, we're just going to slowly see the roll-in of robots, algorithms, and drones taking over the economy. And in 2028 to 2029, the sheep start to go inside the metaverse. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
In China, people use mobile services owned by Alibaba and Tencent to do almost everything. They chat, shop, send money to each other, and even make purchases in physical stores. And the country is becoming cashless. So here's the scary thing for American finance executives. The banks never get a cut. In fact, many Chinese don't even have bank accounts. China is among the growing number of countries showing that payments can happen cheaply and easily without banks or credit cards. In contrast, US consumers still rely on banks for most of their purchases. Even mobile payments made through apps like Apple Pay, Uber, or Venmo are tied to users' cards or bank accounts. That all adds up to a feast of fees for many of the companies that handle and process payments. For a typical $100 credit card purchase in the US, $97.25 goes to the merchant, and the rest is split between issuing banks, payment processors, the merchant's bank, and card networks. Those small slices add up to billions of dollars for banks every year. If apps were to grab market share in the US at roughly the same rate as they have in China, banks would lose a projected $43 billion in revenue from one of their most profitable businesses. And that's not the end of it. Banks also generate revenue by dispensing cash and administering checking accounts. If payment apps were to replace paper money and offer alternatives to regular bank accounts, as they increasingly have in China, other sources of income could take a hit. Checking accounts alone generate $3 billion in bank fees in the US. Whether or not you have access to a bank, being able to make and receive payments through your phone is an obvious advantage, as Alipay and WeChat Pay have demonstrated in China.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China. But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And very much a traditionalist. I like staying with the dollar. You know that from when I was there. It's make the dollar the choice. I hate when countries go off the dollar. I would not allow countries to go off the dollar, because when we lose that standard, that will be like losing a revolutionary war. That will be a hit to our country, just like losing a war. And we can't let that happen. And too many countries now are fighting to get off the dollar. And
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get on stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York. Long COVID Stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.